Thank God it's Friday. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. We'll continue our thoughts on insecurity, and the papers this morning are awash with very, very pathetic stories. The Vanguard, for instance, is talking about bandits kidnapping 6 at Zamfara Girls' School. We understand that we slightly escaped another Chibok or Dapchi experience earlier in the week. Residents kill 7 suspected bandits. Police confirm 5 abducted in Zamfara school. And reps invite Buhari, ask him to declare state of emergency in Katsina State. Recall that there are also stories about a particular person very close to the president who was kidnapped in his hometown. We'll talk about all of this and see how we can prefer solutions, even as the opposition has now asked Mr. President to return home in the face of all of these challenges. I'm joined this morning by Razak Ulukwuba, who's a right activist and a public affairs analyst. Good morning and thank you for coming.
Good morning, and good morning viewers at home.
Yemi Saka is a public affairs analyst. Glad to have you on the show this morning.
Nice to be here, Nefemi.
So the PDP wants Mr. President to return home, and what they're saying is that he can't afford to be out at such a time like this. But many are saying, was it any better when it was around, or is this just a slight on his person at such a time like this?
Well, maybe on moral grounds, he may be asked to return to sympathize with the people. At least moral is important. If you have your president around you, there may be it's a moral booster for other agencies of the government. But as for me, there are structures in place. If you look at America today, there are views of Trump that have been trashed over and over again because there are structures in place that says your views does not Americans cannot accommodate your view. So outside that, I don't see why they rush back. The strategy of security in the nation, we have to review it. The government has done virtually everything that they can do with the security structure in place today. They have done virtually everything. I can't blame for anything again. But the structure is what we have to look at, the style, the strategy. And that's why we have been clamoring for. We have to begin to localize security. Look at what the Minister for Defense said. That's what we've been saying. He talked to the MA, and we have taken initiative for that. From that, the civil society, the members of self-determination group, we have had an expanded and extensive meeting yesterday. We want to start going around Yoruba land because about the safest region in the country is the Yoruba land. But it's creeping in. If you look at some assets in Yoruba land too, that insecurity is beginning to creep in. So we don't have to wait until it's going to happen right at our doorstep before we begin to take steps. So we have to change style. We have to moderate the kind of bogus security system the police structure have at the moment. Let's begin to a semblance of state police. The defense minister said that the emirs should start community effort in securing their localities. That's a good one. That's what we expect from the government on this one. What we need to do is to give it a legal backing. We don't want PDP or the parliament to play security politics with this. Let us do the right thing. Lives are getting lost every day. Enabling legislation should be put in place to back moves of such nature. If in Yoruba land now, because it helped us, the local security helped us in Yoruba land. We have a semblance of what is called, though not backed by the law, but there's a way we operate our regions and communities that we know the son of who you are. So, and in the north, that type of style should be put in place.
Do you think the opposition is doing enough at this time beyond having putting the incumbent on its feet and trying to check out what it's doing? There are some who would say that at such a time like this, the opposition should also be coming up with possible solutions, especially when the lives of Nigerians are at stake.
I laughed, I smiled because that is asking for the impossible. Who is the commander-in-chief? Who commands the troop? Who has the brigade? Who commands the brigade? Who commands the battalion? Who commands the garrison? Who commands the CQ, the command and control structure of the military? It's the commander-in-chief, the president, who even directs the commissioner of police. It comes down from the president, so the opposition cannot do anything. They cannot give a direct order that can be implemented by anybody, even if they profile solutions. It cannot be, it's advisory. Even the Minister of Interior cannot do anything, he can just advise and make requests. So you see, when we say we should not play politics with this, we should not play politics by giving this administration a pass mark. This administration has failed woefully when it comes to security. We should go back, let's backtrack. The issue of Boko Haram, they came out told us that Boko Haram has been degraded. But the House of Representatives Committee on Security said they could not move from Yobe to Borno beyond 5 p.m. when they went on an on-the-spot assessment last year before the elections. So why are we lying to ourselves? If we don't tell ourselves the truth, we don't know the situation we're facing.
But is it accurate that certain gains were achieved in the first 2 years
Is it
of this
the only
administration?
gain that I can say as an individual, which Apara will tell you, is we don't have widespread bombings across the country. But what we've gained, we've lost when it comes to bad entry. Some of us won this administration. And I say this, I'm not trying to disrespect President Muhammadu Buhari, but I tend to question his credentials as a general. Because there are a lot of things happening under his watch that can never happen under the watch of a private in the army.
But let us look at let us look at the specificity, if there's any word like that, of this insurgency or this insecurity. For instance, you have the TIV community, fighting one another or fighting another ethnic group. You have a situation where there are kidnappers here and there. Most of these issues, do you think they are really issues that can be solved with military powers, so to speak? A member of the National Assembly had said that violence is local and solving them will also be local.
Yeah.
Does it require a general power to fix all of these issues, really? Or perhaps a more traditional solution to the problem?
Well, the problem of security now is not 4 years old. It dates back to even the creation of Nigeria itself. So you can only say that the government should do more. You can't say that the government has not done anything. You will agree with me that in Adamawa, election took place. In the last one election, the last Jonathan's time, there were what can be described as no election. The terrible insecurity, insecure the states. And momentarily, there are successes. These guys go back to regroup again and come back stronger. There's that pattern. But in the past, Jonathan's time, there was no such pattern. Where they take over, where they fly their flag, the military during Jonathan's time never takes back such locations back from Boko Haram. So there's an international dimension to the issue on ground. And that's why I like what Buhari has done when it's beginning to look east to call on the Russians. Because the numbers of bullets expelled by Boko Haram, if there's a store where they store, so it should finish by now. So where are they getting more bullets? All the countries in the sub-regions that surrounds us, Buhari has visited them several times. But we still get a weakling.
How sustainable?
So the local question that you have asked, and that is what I am saying, that this is the direction
I think I get your point.
Long before now.
Yes, I'm just wondering how sustainable foreign help is, because we heard the UK also saying that if you ask us for help, we're going to help. But
no, terrorism is a global phenomenon.
With the Chibok girls that were abducted, we saw a lot of international solidarity, but it didn't turn out to any much success as far as getting back the girls were concerned.
Nifemi, you see, we should say things with what we know. I can tell you authoritatively that the largest industry in the whole world, even beyond oil, is arms. And that's the only sector, just like the oil sector, you can trade in it legally and illegally. And that is even where countries and nations buy arms legitimately and even on the black market. So, you see, when you say where these people get bullets from, the arms, you see, if you want global peace, look at the arms industry. As long as those guys are still pushing out their arms and everything, and you see, we have a lot of light arms in Africa. We've gone through a lot of, civil uprisings and, wars here and there in Africa. There was one in Liberia. There's still one going on in Mali. Whether we like it or not, there's Libya. So by the time you look at this, the arms, it's a business. It's an enterprise for some people. So if you are, and Nigeria as a country, we've not been serious about it over time. But now let's come to this present administration, and let's get specific, like you insisted. Chibok girls adoption. I can tell you authoritatively. No, let me say I can tell you, or it was speculated, that there was a simulation exercise of such in NDA in 1997, 96, Ashanti Lane. A simulation exercise. And we saw Chibok in Dapchi, and we almost saw Dapchi in Zamfara. So it's not, you can't say the personnel are not trained. And I've been telling people, if we're serious about fighting, you see, we're building the fight on insurgency and terrorism on an existing weak structure, which we inherited from the Jonathan administration. I keep on insisting this insurgency cannot last this long, and the strategy and what have you, the concept of operations of the military cannot be linked to these insurgents if they're not collaborators from within.
All right, so unfortunately,
and for you to get the collaborators from within, subject the senior guys and everybody in the DHQ, the DSS to a polygraph test.
Unfortunately, we're not just only talking about insurgency in northern Nigeria. Now there's armed banditry, there is kidnapping for ransom, there is communal clash, there is the farmer headers clash, and it seems to be hydra-headed. But I'm concerned about the fact that each time incidences like this happen, stakeholders call on the federal government, and then we're asking, where's Mr. President? What happens to the powers of the governor? Because they say, oh, the Zamfara State governor, for instance, mentioned that he's not even the security, the chief security officer of the state, calling for state of emergency. How limited, has the powers for these governors become over the years, especially when it comes to fighting insecurity? We hear about the security votes that they get, for instance. I mean, are they so limited and powerless such that they can't do anything at such a time like this?
Well, that's why I disagree with my colleague here that ABIA has not done much about it. To me, the guy has done excellently well. Look at his war record and look at what he has done since he has gone. In fact, I know that if Buhari had not been a general, we would have been in a bigger mess. Now, in a specific time,
but was it
let's get specific.
Was it? Let me take you up on that. Was it as worse than this when a non-general was there?
Yes. There was no progress to record during Jonathan's time. In fact, virtually there was no place in the north that
you are referring
former
to
president,
insurgency now.
Yeah, the former president could visit.
I'm saying that beyond insurgency now, we're talking about kidnapping. But no,
I'm coming to that. I'm just laying my sequence.
Okay.
Now, with what we have in the country today, there's a limit to which you can blame the federal government. You are responsible for your youth. If your youth is responsible or your youth is irresponsible, that's not the fault of the federal government. The northern leaders have a major role to play. There are an army of unemployed youth in the north. And there's no pragmatic step, practical step, feasible step that has been taken up to today as you and I talk. The only thing you see the federal government doing is that they have introduced farming program. And a lot of the youth in the north are buying into it. A lot of other initiatives. Mass housing is going in the north. And youth are engaged. Road networks are going on. Then you now ask, what is the effort of the state governors? You get allocation every month. In what programs do you put on ground to empower the youth to take their attention away from? There's exuberance. If you don't manage the exuberance of the youth, they take initiative to take wrong steps. So the state governors in the north, the leaders in the north, I blame them for all this. We all have our region, we all have our leaders. There's an extent to which this kind of thing can happen in the southwest. Each time we have such a situation, the initiative leaders of society take. But because in the north, the youth point accusing finger at them that the most beneficial region in the country in terms of having access to federal cover are the north. And this is the region where they have next to nothing in terms of development. So let's begin to situate and locate the blame. For slow response, for insufficient transport, which is what my colleague here is saying. You may say that. But what led us into it? You can't blame the federal government for that.
Yemi, I understand your position as regards the performance of this administration. But let us take our focus away from Mr. President for a minute and talk about the rules of governors. I mean, the last time we checked, the primary responsibility of government is security and welfare. Should we start asking governors if they have the capacity to provide security before they get elected this days?
I think we'll be chasing shadows and we'll be living in denial if we want to start blaming the governors. Because if you look at the constitutions and if you look at even the way the military and the paramilitary is structured, nobody can, no personnel in the police or the army or the civil defense or the immigrations or prisons will take any direct order from the governor. There's a chain of command, and there's a communication channel that orders whittle down and gets to them. You didn't see, you probably do not see a governor in it. Let me tell you, it's the president, either the Minister of Defense, and either the Minister of Interior. I'm telling you how it goes to the high GP, then the AIGs, then DIGs, AIGs, then compose.
We have
so,
seen
I want to ask you a question.
Just a minute, I mean, we have seen in states like Lagos, where the state government over the years has made deliberate effort to empower the police. And we've seen how it has, you know, reflected in improved security to an extent.
I'm still coming to that. So what any governor can do is probably just provide aids and probably equipment, if okay, because I just want my state to be secured. And there's a limit to how there's a limit to what you can buy, and there's a limit to how you can equip the police. Let's face it. Yes, they can do that because I want my safe to be safe under my watch. You can deploy any resources you want to do. Yes, you can always liaise with the director of DSS in your state, the garrison commander in the states, and you can always have a security briefing and ask them, okay, please, what do you think we should do? There's always a platform for you to interact.
What about the relationship, like he mentioned, that exists between the welfare of the citizen and the security of that place?
No.
For instance, if governors have done their best to provide employment, to improve the economy of their states, perhaps they won't have idle hands that engage in all of this.
The mistake we've been making
issues
over time is you have governors that come stand on the podium during elections and promise employment, or they reduce unemployment, and the only thing they do is they open the floodgates of the civil service. You cannot reduce unemployment by employing en masse into your civil service. I remember when America had the Great Depression in the 60s and what have you, they also brought about the SBA, small business backed loans. What you need to do is just create an enabling environment, the laws and the resources, or probably the instruments where entrepreneurs and small-scale enterprises could thrive. Once you do that, yes, they can do it. But now look at the issue of power, which every sector needs to survive. It's not controlled by the state. In fact, there's the National Electric Regulatory Act that says if you generate anything more than 50 megawatts on grid, you transfer to the national grid for redistribution. So, if as a state I come up with an IPP project and I generate more than 500 megawatts, which I know even my state need monthly could be 300 megawatts, I cannot use it. I have to direct it. I have to go to transfer it to the national grid. And national grid on distribution might just end up giving me 130 megawatts.
I'm just thinking that if the bulk of the blame entirely lies, at the doorstep of the president, then perhaps we don't need governors in this state.
No,
we should just
perhaps we should look at the exclusive.
Can we have a say?
Yeah, sure, you will. But I just wanted him to clear that point. Are you saying that entirely? I mean, so there's a problem in the local government, then Mr. President should be responsible?
Because that's the way our security architecture is structured.
Let me have your opinion about this.
No, that's not the way the country is structured. Don't let us create a confusion here. Why are they getting allocation if that is the way it is being structured? And the power you're talking about, people are improvising. Lagos State made sure that a unit to get to that benchmark, they don't allow you to get to that benchmark for a project. Because if it gets to that benchmark, it must go to a national grid. Don't let us hold brief for people who are doing the wrong thing. In the north, you have interstate importation of almondiri, when we should be importing cocoa, rice, and gari and everything. What the north import to other states is almondiri. It's wrong. Let's say the truth. You see,
but
sorry, I don't want. Then let us interjections are not fair in this kind of discussion. See, what I'm saying is that we should not criticize government to take a wrong decision, because government is bound to listen to the people all the time. Let us do a critique that will help the government. I pick a few things from what you have said, which is correct. But what I'm saying is that in the north, Emir Sanusi said it that we are responsible for what is happening to us. He said so. And if I want to talk about Buhari as a northerner, he's as part of the blame, because we blame all of them together. But as a president of Nigeria, I don't think problem created by leaders of a region should be put at the doorstep of the president. Look at Lagos, for instance, now. Lagos is 3 times the population of Israel. Israel is 7 million, and we are 20 million already. Now, what I'm saying is that series of initiatives were being taken by Lagos. What you say can never work in other states. Why is it working in state? Why is it working in OSUN? Why is it working in Ekiti? Why is it working in other places? And it's not working in the north. So the way out of it, if the northerners are sincere, if they are ready and committed to get rid of all these menaces in their region, they should admit, and beyond admission, they should take practical steps. We are not talking about empowerment of come and get bicycle. No, that's not what we are saying. Like you have said, PPP. Tell me of any major PP that is happening in the North today. Because it's not about come and get civil service job. It's about creating a platform for people to come and participate in your economy. When your state are not safe, nobody will come and do business there. So, and the way out of it, what the federal government can do, since we are all saying that federal government is not doing enough, is to allow what looks like a state police, if people are scared of that name. And the Minister of Defense has said it a few days back that traditional rulers, I mean, I've taken initiative from them, I've taken advice. We are meeting emirs, our obas here, we are meeting our kings. After this program now, we will be setting out to all various parts of Yoruba land, calling on organizations that now this is what the federal government has said, as recommended by the president. That
I think I get your point.
Yes.
It's just also unfortunate that although the bulk of the insecurity is recorded in the North, there are still abductions and kidnappings, fostering and being established in the South. Just a couple of weeks ago, a senior officer was abducted right here in Lagos, and then you go to him to interview him. How did he get out? I mean, that's another story for another day. There are unconfirmed reports that people still pay ransom for these kidnappers. But I want us to take a step further.
The cadence is communicable.
I want us to take a step further as regards finding solutions to this. So this has formed the basis of conversation, deliberations, even at the floor of the National Assembly. The Deputy Senate President, for instance, is saying that let us amend the 1999 Constitution, like I have said, to accommodate state police. Let us ban motorcycles in some of these areas where these things are happening. What is this issue with state police? Why are we shying away from it?
Well, I think Nigerians nowadays, this mistrust keeps growing bigger and deeper after every dispensation, and it's the political class that are giving us this problem. Because I will say this to you, if I'm from Ogun State, no, I'm from Ogun State, not if I'm from Ogun State, I'm from Ogun State now, I'm now a police officer, and I'm posted to my local government Jabodi. I'm loyal to I'm attached to that community. And because they know me, they know where I come from, they know my people, I want to have a record which my people will be proud of. And policing in Nigeria, all of it, over time, has become a source of a source of employment for people after seeking jobs everywhere. In some countries, joining the police force or being on the police force is a family tradition and pride. My grandfather was a police officer, my father was a police officer, I'm now a police officer. That is that. Now, we cannot talk, I would want to go by region. The kidnapping in South that spilled into Southeast was an offshoot of militancy in that region. And over time, when it was clamped down and everything, it fizzled out. Now, we should not look at the remote cause of kidnapping in Northwest. It is just because of the, I can say, treating of the herdsmen with kid gloves. And that was, you see, if you look at this, and I challenge anybody to let us have a comparative intelligence analysis. The route taken by nomads, which we keep on encouraging, because they are nomads, they have to move from one place to the other. I can tell you that their temporary or their transit habitation or habitat is what these kidnappers, especially in the Northwest, are using as hideouts. So if you want to stop kidnapping and banditry in Northwest, clamp down on roaming herdsmen. That is the first thing you have to do. Outlaw it. So if you outlaw it, there is no way for them to start building up shanties and settlements along because those things are not along the major highway. It's behind the highways, which most times patrol cannot get there.
So it sounds it's not as simple as you make it sound. For instance, that's the issue of headsman issue is not limited to Nigeria.
Yeah, there are peculiarities in security.
It has an international relevance.
There are peculiarities. That's why we want...
My question here is that we have seen some states now enforce what they call the anti-grazing law.
Yeah.
In Benue, in Ekiti, and a couple of other states. Do you, once again, we're talking about the role of governors. Do you think that's the way to go to resolve this issue?
No. There are peculiarities in security. In some states, if you walk almost naked, the culture does not permit it. It's a crime. In some other states, you can walk almost naked. It does not affect the psyche of anybody or the religion of anybody. The same thing is about security. In a region where predominantly they do cattle rearing, and you can't ban grazing there. That's why I'm saying that the peculiar security of each area should be adopted by each region. Don't create a universal law to say that I don't want roadblock anywhere again. There are states that if you remove roadblock, you have shattered the security network of that. But there are some states that they don't need it. The fear of state police is this, that police will turn to an oppressive apparatus by state governors. When last did the last man arrest a PDP officer? When last did Kai arrest a PDP or an opposition party on the basis that it's an opposition party? Sir, in the rest of the world where they practice state police and national police, there's a section in the law that each state, there's a federal officer there. And if a state police goes, just like how a president is ensaddled with the right to create an emergency in a state for if a government states beyond this boundary, to create an emergency, state police, there must be a section in the constitution that the state police will be federalized for 3 months, for 6 months, pending the time you will restore order. Because we have been talking about this. They didn't call us for, okay, come and expatiate on what we are doing. I'm 30 years in advocacy already. 89 to date is 30 years. So people just jump into what is called restructuring and say, this is not what we are talking about. So this peculiarity of each state is what the state will employ to ensure that they put in place a proper security measure. I won't say that the Yoruba system of security should be employed in it will not work. Federal police should be ensaddled with certain responsibility. But when it comes to traditional issues that cause crisis, I sang Bo where there are crises in the north, and I took time to explain. It's Fulani and Fulani that are killing each other in Kaduna, in Beningwari. It's not Benue Chief. It's Fulani to Fulani. And to sort out such issues, Army can't do that. Federal police can't do that. It's the local police who understand the history of that crisis.
I'm also wondering if we have identified the individuals or interests that have become clogged in the wheels of having state police. And if the ruling party is interested to make it their priority, especially with the incoming
So it was a campaign issue
assembly.
in 2015 that they said they're going to implement it.
I knew you were going to say that. All right, let's take a break. And when we return, we'll open the phone lines and also have you contribute to this very important issue. Do join us again. Glad to have you join us again. We're looking at insecurity challenge in the country, and the phone lines will be open now. We'd love to hear from you. Razak Olukoba, Yemisaka, thank you for staying the course on the show this morning. It's been an interesting discourse. I just want us to move ahead to start preferring solutions, because we can go on and on and on, identify what the challenges are. I think every Nigerian understands and can resonate with that fact. But as we speak now, recall that the upper chamber resolved to set aside 10 billion naira in the 2019 budget as intervention fund to cater for IDPs in Zamfara State. How sustainable are these funds? Because we seem to have followed up the quality of lives of internally displaced persons. And it's a concern to some Nigerians that if we don't take good care of these people, we might just be breeding another fertile ground for another level of insecurity and insurgents to arise. Let me begin with it.
You see, that's part of what we are saying. The first responsibility lies first with the state governors. Even federal government is very, very secondary. And if you are aware that there is a fund set aside for these people, if I should be the one performing the duties of the National Assembly as an oversight institution, by asking the appropriate questions that if you have voted so XYZ amount of money for my own people that have been displaced, it's not reflecting on them. But I can bet you that in the tradition of many politicians, it is another national cake for them. And it's not going to help. See, there must be a national outcry on this matter. You can't eat your cake and have it back. And there's a danger. The danger is that we thought there's always an escape route. If there's a crisis here, we can move to this place. It will get to a point where the decadence, just like I've said earlier, that it's a communicable disease. Youth will turn this thing into vogue.
Let me hold you for
question
a
of
minute.
tramadol, question of drug
Yes.
taking. It's taking over the entire country today. So youth will take it as a profit-making venture. And it gets to that point, that is when Nigeria will know that we're in
Let's
a
take
big
this
mess.
call very quickly from OSOGBO. Good morning, Comrade Ayo.
Good morning, if any.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good morning to our guests in the studio.
Good morning, sir.
Me, Femi, see, without being optimistic, we are far, far away from resolving this security crisis. See, the indices, the remote causes of this problem are not even being looked into. Poverty and education. If you go to the north, majority of the state governments are not even doing anything to ameliorate the poverty situation in their states. So, education in the north is not what is obtainable in the south. Yeah, and this majority of these governments are not even doing anything towards that area. So, these are the remote causes of the problem we are having. Secondly, our recruitment process is not transparent enough. You get into the security personnel, maybe it's as a result of a compensation by a godfather for a job you do for him. He compensates you by giving him his own slot to recruit you into the security personnel. So majority of our 70% of our personnel are not even interested in what they are doing. They get there because of the economic situation of the country. And they are not contributing meaningfully to the security situation there at all, because they are not interested in what they are doing. So they see it as a means of getting something at the end of the month to feed their family member. So that is just it. Unless we look into these issues critically and holistically, start something about education in the north, start something about reducing the poverty level in the north, then we will go somewhere. Honestly speaking, because this issue is about intelligence gathering. And majority of people are not ready to divulge information because they are not even secured. If you give out information to the police, for instance, now, and the bandits are threatening, nobody to secure you, honestly speaking. So we will continue to have this crisis unless we look holistically into all these issues and resolve all the remote causes of this problem.
I think you made your point, Comrade Ayo. Thank you very much for calling in on the program this morning. So someone said that we have the penchant of throwing money at every problem. You recall the Dasuki Gate, and it's all about also fighting insecurity. The problem is, it is not, you need a lot of money to fight insecurity. But we also have this trust issue that, for instance, if the $1 billion that the president approved for the military is eventually disbursed, how are we sure that these monies are going to be, really, really used for the purpose for which they were released?
Well, I'll answer your question by being rhetorical, but this is like if the quest or greed for money was what sustained insurgency during the administration of President Jonathan, and the insurgency is still being sustained right now, that means the greed is not lacking. The greed is still there. You see, he made a valid point. I remember when this issue was put in Gombe, the one civil defense guy rammed into a procession of Boys Brigade in doing Easter. I raised the question. I said, are we sure these are not one of those radicalized people introduced to the society? And digging and making inquiries here and there, we find out what happens these days in civil defense is just they'll just send somebody to a command and say, yes, give him this rank and this post. That's corroborating what COMRADE said. And you see, joining the armed forces is meant to be a pride and a thing of honor. It's Nigeria. We have to the army has to face it. That getting to the armed forces or the army is not a reserve of some elites. They make it so difficult. And I keep saying this, we need to expand the army. I've been saying this since 2009. We need to extend the entry, this age limit.
Let me take this call very quickly. Yakub is calling in from DOPEMU. Good morning, Yakub.
Yeah, listen, good morning, sir.
Good morning, bro.
Good morning to your guest.
Good morning, Mr. Yakubu.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Listen, I think I agree with Mr. Zach for saying what he has been saying this morning. He has nailed the nail at the right place. Why? Because look at the governor. The question now is that we always blame the federal government or President Muhammadu Buhari in particular when we are talking about insecurity. Why? Why am I asking this question is this? You are giving security funds to the governor every month. The question we need to ask them is that, what are you using this money for? And then this money is not accountable to anybody. And then when there is any insecurity in the state, the governor will say that I'm not in charge. If you know that you are not in charge, why did you collect the money in the first place? That is number one. Number two, Mr. Azak made a very valid point earlier, whereby he said, if you don't include the local people, the Hobart, the Henias, I can tell you, there is no way we can settle this issue. Why? Because look at the Yoruba land now. Every state in this Yoruba land, every village have the mode of security they normally use before even the military apparatus come into play. So why are we looking towards another side? The reason is this. If you say that, okay, we base our security on a military alone, how are you going to start it? Because the security they put set to my village, it was posted from the Borno state. How are you going to know the front of my village? He can't know that. If, Mr. Nifemi, let me say this quickly. You see, your guest mentioned about NEPA earlier. I think I have to say something about it. That federal government did not provide electricity for the governor to be able to provide the job for the citizens of their federal state. Why? Why? Because we have put it for the senators, House of Representatives, whereby they're supposed to make the enabling law, where it's going to allow the federal state government to generate light and sell it to their federal state citizens. And then period of 2015, the last dispensation did something. They sold the NEPA and then they sold it to their people. How is they going to do it? We need a right law in order to secure this country. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Yakub. You seem to have a lot to say in such a very limited time. But let's talk about intelligence gathering, because I've heard a lot of that, during this discourse. So the challenge now is, how do we gather intelligence when the people do not even trust the security infrastructure? Some communities, as we speak right now, seem to have a bad blood for the military because of the, history that they have. They believe they have killed some of their folks and all of that. How do we get all of these, irrespective of the situation that we have found ourselves?
Well, it's a legitimate fear that it exercises, and the military also exercise such fear that they can't go to that community, that they will be compromised. There are instances where they say the Boko Haram will be smoked out in the night. And when they get there, they do a radar survey and discover that Boko Haram, they are wearing masks already. So the American intervention that came, how to go back that, no, we can't be involved in this. See, the way out of this, like we have pointed out earlier, is that intelligence gathering is important. And security report and intelligence advice should be followed. If you are not ready to kill, don't send soldiers to anywhere. Police is 50-50. You may kill, you may sort it out with words of mouth. But what is most important appropriately is that all the structures, our structures in Nigeria today, there's an endemic mistrust among all of them. And like we said, the way out of it is, if we don't allow your country to work in the way you're supposed to, this is the direct consequence of it. So we appeal to APC government, we appeal to President Muhammadu Buhari, and we also appeal to Northerners particularly, because advocate of restructuring define restructuring in such a way as if it's anti-north.
Let me just button very quickly to take this call from Damaturu. Good morning, Ibrahim. Are you still
good
there?
Morning.
Please go ahead.
Okay. My contribution is that every time we're talking about insecurity, we forget to focus, we give focus onto what Nigeria stands for in the global perspective. Nigeria is an oil major. And if you can see it through, everywhere in an oil major state, there are so much competition in owning the state. Everywhere in this world where there is oil, there is an, what do you call, this kind of struggle to take on the positions. we see all kind of insurgencies coming out from nowhere. You see Boko Haram, you see herdsmen, you see kidnappers, you see every angle you turn. There is so much funding going into to make sure that we as Nigerians, we did not get our issue right. The kind of funding, okay, your guests are talking about employment by the state government. Even if everybody now, all states now will employ 100% these people, the kind of funding that these people are putting into galvanize so much people into this kind of insurgency. You see a situation whereby they will tell you about 150 motorcycles coming in, all the motorcycles carrying about three people or more, carrying AK-47s. All this kind of funding is so much. And even the army now is talking about the kind of funding that these people are, and the kind of employment we are giving is not up to is not up to the kind of the kind of employment that we are giving cannot match.
It's all right.
The kind of funding
I think I get the point you're trying to make there, Ibrahim. Thank you for calling in on the program this morning. You don't seem to agree with what we're saying about...
You see, everywhere there's oil in the world, that's true. There's a kind of violence. That is from an international dimension.
I know you're wondering if there's oil in the north.
What I'm saying is that most countries that are third world and African countries, the international community, which is not been corroborated by any report, but there's an isolated report that says that the international community are responsible for violence all over the world, where there are oils, where there are goals, and that's the angle I was coming from the other time. That where are all those guns coming from? Where are all those bullets coming from? So you see, some of these crises is in a way to allow us not to have time to be able to develop organize ourselves. So Nigeria is a big market. If Nigeria gets this right today, bye-bye to many countries of the world who are presiding over our feet. Bye-bye to loans, bye-bye to IMF, London Bank, Paris Club. Some countries may not want that to happen to us. And that's the angle where it's coming from.
That's all right.
Where there's oil, there's always an international dimension.
I'm coming to you, Yemi, but that will be after I hear from Okorafo in ABIA State. Good morning, Okorafo.
Good morning, Mr. Nipe. Good morning, our guests in the studio.
Good morning, Mr. Okorafo.
Honestly, see, my brothers, see what we're supposed to do now. Let me give you three solutions. One, all state governors and Minister of Abuja, they should organize that, conduct free and fair election. That is to say, any chairman or any councillor in any local government where there is crisis, whether kidnapping or not, such persons should be what? They should be sacked. Because if you conduct free and fair election in any local government, not a question of governor coming to impose a chairman in a local government or a councillor in a local government. No. Free and fair election. Then whether you are in the opposition party that wins, but as far as they start that person will be sacked. Any incoming one will do what? Will sit up. Number two, there is need for state police, not this politically oriented state police, real state police. And number three, vigilantes. When we talk about vigilantes, they must have three stages of vigilantes: morning vigilante, afternoon, and night. And the local government authority must be responsible in their payment and the community wherever they operate. Because anybody coming to operate in the night, they must have done all their brain work in the daytime. Let me give you an example of what is happening in Aba now. Do you know Aba, in every day there are over 20 kidnapping? That is every day. There's only the one you hear on the media that is what people would like to know. Some of the kidnappers, they collect 350,000 naira from those who they have kidnapped, some 200, some 500. It's happening there today. But what is happening? The media, everybody is afraid. Because by the time you talk, Jack Robinson, you too will be kidnapped and your family will be kidnapped. Thank you very much. Have a blessed weekend.
Thank you very much for calling on the program. Have we truly do we understand really if indeed the reason for all of this kidnapping is as a result of poverty? Because when you hear the amount of money that the kidnappers ask for sometimes, you're wondering, is this what you need for feeding?
That's a level 15 officer.
I mean, that's much more than what the ordinary poor man would want.
No matter how you look at it, you cannot justify crime.
That's right.
So I probably will not believe, I'm not a millionaire, why didn't I take to crime?
Well, do you think that if we get our economy better, crime will automatically reduce?
Well, to a very large extent, but I probably won't. That is just that is speculative. We cannot say, because even the rich one that gets into public office and embezzle money, you can't say was so. What was the motivation? But going back to this, I probably want to. I've seen a trend, and I want to correct that. It's not fancy. It's not something of fancy, and it's not something acceptable now for us to blame the governors or the elders of the northern Nigeria. Why were we not blaming them 2013 to 2015?
We did.
No. The reason we kicked out President Goodluck Jonathan was insecurity and bastard of the economy. I probably would not want to say that why, but so I don't know why we can now say we should not criticize Buhari for insecurity when it was nice, right, and appropriate to criticize President Goodluck Jonathan.
Let me hold you very briefly. We have a caller from Dublin. Good morning, MALLAM.
Good morning. How are you?
Terrific. Go ahead with your contribution, please.
Yeah, I just have a little contribution on this issue of security in Nigeria. I see us fighting a war in this 21st century with the old system of fighting insecurity in any nation. If you go to Europe and America and Australia today, we use technology to fight insecurity. The country is organized. Everybody is registered. We use
social identification number.
Single individual to fight insecurity. Everybody collects ID card and is being identified with those identification. There is no database as far as I'm concerned. You asked a question there, a question of how do we fight insecurity and how do we gather intelligence. And nobody seems to have answered that question you asked between your two guests and anybody who called in. That intelligence gathering without data, there is no way we can be able to fight the insecurity in Nigeria. It's in this 21st century, in this millennium, and we say we don't have a concrete database of every single. Look, post offices are not working. So tell me, how do we fight this?
It's all right.
Post offices are not working.
A valid point indeed that you have made.
Excuse me?
There is no name and street of every single people in Nigeria. The streets are not working. So how?
It's all right, MALLAM. Thank you very much for calling in. Very valid point is made. And I think that perhaps this is where we're going to call on the federal government. For instance, they say, we don't even know how many we are in this country. We can't tell if anybody who's here is a Nigerian. I mean,
efforts are going on towards that. But on the economy that you have said, see, we have to dislodge, we have to rupture, we have to dislocate the recruitment base of crimes in this country. Kill 10 Boko Haram today, tomorrow you have 100. Because there's an army of unemployed youth.
It's all right.
If you dislodge it by doing the right thing, if you don't have raw material for a product, you won't produce it again. But because there's a ready-made army for banditry, for kidnapping, for insurgents, for terrorism, you will always. Why is it festering in the north? Because there's an army. The best way to do it is what we have recommended: that engage your youth. That we have not been blaming them. In the early 90s. We have started pointing out the implication of religious crisis in the north.
I'm afraid we're just going to have to wrap it there because of time. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
What about security gathering? I probably want to say this. Fighting insurgency, I think there's a need for us to have a CTU that has to be decentralized.
I agree with you.
The CTU that we have right now is just domiciled at the NSA's office. If state has to have a command structure of the CTU. Secondly, you have to have we have to merge our data from
That's right.
VVN, voter
I think that post
registration,
is doing as
and
that.
everything.
It's doing a lot
Then you
like
see,
that.
lastly, on the Kaduna Abuja Expressway, I think the primary thing we can do now is this. I just want to just suggest two things. There has to be an aggressive lightening of that place. Then secondly, I think the police and maybe the JTF there should conduct sting operation where they go with commercial
We're
buses
just going
as
to
if
have
they are
to leave it there.
passengers.
We're going to continue this conversation. We have a huge viewership on YouTube, and there's an amazing conversation going there. A shout out to Ade Richard, OK, Odibo, Smart Money, Olugbenga, Ajayi. Perhaps you guys should use your real name so that we can track you with all of these comments that you're putting here. But we want to say a big thank you to everyone, especially Razak Olokoba and Yemi Saka for coming on the program today.
Welcome.
I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Uncle Yuri will be back next week with another exciting one. Do join us again.